Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to work within the objects, right, and paint the objects themselves. Right now we've established that the surrounding atmosphere of the objects, okay? So let's first start with the pear. And the first thing we want to do is to take advantage of the nature of watercolor by putting down a pool of water, right, so that we can create a surface, right, that's going to surface of water, right, and it's going to see what we want to do is those subtle, soft interactions of color, right? So the pear is sort of a dark red or an orange, right? So that would be red with yellow, okay? It's fairly chromatic, and I'm going to just start touching it in. Oops, a little bit too red. I need a little more yellow in there, okay? And I'm going to start I'm gliding the brush, right? Just ever so slightly. Okay. Okay, so there's our pear. And notice there's a highlight at the top of it there. So I'm going to just keep that a little brighter. Okay, we're going to let that dry a little bit, right? So let's move on to the apple itself, the red one in the front. Okay, first we're going to put a layer of water in there. Okay. All right, and I'm seeing that interaction of the yellow and the red. Let's see if we can, what we can do to kind of create that beautiful interaction, subtle interaction of color. And notice again how I'm drawing with the color, so to speak, right? And there's a very subtle, I can sort of push the color around. Okay, and there we have that apple, right? And now let's move on to our yellow apple, which has a very subtle kind of an orangey area here. Okay, and it kind of continues. Okay, and there's a bit of a shadow here, and it's soft. Right, and then I want to intensify the chroma on the yellow. Right at the transition, also very important. Okay, now we're going to dry the little bit, dry the painting just a little bit. I'm seeing it, something here that I want to add in, right? So this area where the stem comes out of it needs a little definition. Okay, so here we see the color doing its thing, in full force, and we have, just want to soften that edge so it's not so sharp. Okay, and so here's where you might want to pick up some of this pooling that's going on. Okay. Okay, and proceed to dry the painting a little bit. Okay. Now is where we need to implement some of our color theory. So the complementary color of yellow is violet, right? So violet is red with blue, okay? And we're going to create that shadow area on the yellow apple there. So we need to create a little bit of violet. Okay, here we are with some violet. Okay, and we're going to make reference to our image, and you can see the transition, and there's quite a bit of reflected light there, so there's some green there, but we're going to first put the violet in there as our transition color, and it should be soft, so I'm going to add a little water right to the edge there to make that transition soft. Okay. And then deepen it, right? Right, and there's a little bit of, as I said, there's some green in there, that reflected light, the green. So a little yellow and blue. In that reflected light area. Okay. Okay. And then what's our complementary color for the red, right? So we need to be using, again, some green to knock that red down. Put some green into your red to make that dark red. Okay. Right. And we're going to look at the transition area there, right? So we're going to start soft and light first. Creates that. And we're keeping in mind the light source is coming from left to right here. Right, now that's a harsh edge there. We're going to soften it with a little water. Okay. And we can always pick up water with our brush. Right. Okay. And then we go to the pear. We look at the pear. There's like a violet in there, the shadow area, the brown. Okay, so let's make some brown. So it's red, yellow, and blue together. Mostly like a violet. The blue. And the red. Okay. Okay. And we got to pick up that shape, the shadow shape. And I'm just going to glide it in there. Okay. Nice. Now I'm going to soften the edge there a little bit. The areas of transition are always soft, right? Unless it's directly in the light. Okay, and so here you see the image. It's come along nicely. Now we can work towards just deepening the values, work towards finishing the drawing. And I need paper towel to help wick up some of this excess. Okay. All right. We can deepen the underside shadow areas. So it'll be darkest underneath there, right, and then softer as it moves away from the object. And then just deepen the folds a little bit. And it's interesting how the cool colors recede and the warm colors, they pop out, right? And so the next thing we want to do is dry the painting again and then put in some of the detail, right? So there's a little stem here, right? There's a pretty big stem right there, right? And the characteristic of the stem on the pear is quite interesting. Okay, and here we are. And we can add some of the details. Okay, and there you go. Like to deepen the shadows once again in layers. The image is bright from left to right, so adding to the drama is the last sort of layer of color. Okay, and there we go. Beautiful, nicely designed. The color is playing its role. The characteristic of the watercolor is inherent in the painting. And there you go.